What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I have a video about the E50M. This tank has received a major buff in the last update. It has gotten, the most important thing for it is the reactive armor consumable. Other than that, it has received a DPM buff and some minor armor buffs to the sides of the hull and the sides of the turret. As you can see from this clip, it weighs 50 tons, so ramming anything, especially light tanks, is absolutely devastating to them. The major key points of this tank are including its weight, which is honestly, you can't say that about a lot of other tanks or any others that I can think of right now. The other things are the frontal armor, the side armor profile that allows you to side scrape like this. There's very few other mediums that you can effectively side scrape against like an IS-4 that has that type of heat round in that situation, but the shape of the tank lets you do it. It also has an incredibly strong hold down armor profile, although it only does have 7 degrees of depression, so you kind of have to be careful. A key weakness that you have to look out for is the face of the turret. When you're hull down and they can only see the face of the turret, people that can aim will shoot the face of the turret like, 3 out of 4 times. It's not a perfect hit because it's a very small weak spot, but it is large enough that they can consistently do that. The other obvious weak spots are the sides and rear, like every other tank, and then the lower plate. The lower plate is huge, and if you're driving straight at somebody, they will hit it. You can throw your track in and get bounces that way, but when you get tracked in this tank, another not so noticed but definitely important weak spot of this tank is that when it gets tracked and you're moving at any type of speed, you get spun like 90 degrees. So I tend to, when I'm closing the distance, just allow like my enemy to shoot me in the lower plate because it's better than getting tracked and spun around and having to wait an extra however many seconds to get to them and potentially taking another shot because of it. But once you get in that face hug, you're a very dangerous tank. So focusing on getting on that face hug when you need to, being hold down when you can, this tank is super strong. A negative thing that I noticed the most about this tank is the gun. The gun has a really good reload per alpha. It's not the best. It does have good DPM though. But the accuracy on the move is terrible. I miss so many shots and it's very frustrating. Uh, it is what it is though. The tank is meant to be played close up. If you're taking so many shots from range and you're missing, just get a little bit closer. I mean, that's just how it is. But the problem that I have with it is that when you're on the move, you're not hitting very much at all, unless it's a really big, like the side of an E100 or something, and he's not angled at all. But that really kind of ruins the tank experience for me. Honestly, it's fun to play when you're brawling, but getting to the brawls and driving around the map is just frustrating, missing so many shots, and the tank's not that enjoyable for me because of that. But once you do get into those brawls and you're like face hugging an enemy medium and there's nothing they can do about it, you're just bullying them. You can even bully heavies in this thing so easily. That's pretty enjoyable, but it's just getting to those points that's just a little bit more difficult than something that has better on the move dispersion. The reactive paired with the face hugging in this thing, it's such a good brawler. It's easy to go against heavies. The one thing you do need to be careful for though is, not that it's a common situation, but if you're fighting against tanks with Hesh, HE shells are not affected by the damage reduction that reactive armor provides. So if there's a Vickers Light that's farming you, popping reactive isn't going to help you at all. He's still going to be doing full damage. If a 183 comes around the corner and you're not facing him, your reactive isn't going to save you. But in situations like this, where there's a YAG and a KPZ, if I wanted to use the reactive armor to reduce their damage, I 100% could do that. That was just a display of the armor. Um, the armor is a unique thing. So a lot of the mediums have like thinner armor that's angled well, or just thin sides that aren't angled well at all. This has just thicker sides, which contributes to its weight, which means that it doesn't get overmatched, and if you slightly angle the hull, you can bounce things that you really shouldn't be able to bounce if they don't aim quickly enough. Like, you can do stuff in this tank, like bounce YAG E100s. It's not something you should rely on, but like that wouldn't really happen in a 121B or a T62A. I would have to be so over angled he'd be aiming at the front of my tank. You don't really have to over angle so much for that to happen with this vehicle. It's more likely that it will happen. The sides of the turret are also weak, so when I'm hold down in situations like this, I need to be very careful that I'm looking at my threat, and there's no way people can shoot me from the sides, because as soon as you turn the turret, it's like a concept 1B but worse, because those sides are kind of pointed in a way that as you look away they become more flat. Anybody looking at you, if you're not looking at them, will pen your turret. The only benefit to that is that it is a small turret, so it's sometimes hard to hit. Another advantage you get, as you saw when that 4005 was crossing, the HE shell in this thing is phenomenal. I don't think I included the clip in this video, it was already too long, but I farmed the rear of an E3 in one of my games, and he was killed so quickly. It's just such a good shell. It does like 400. Let me just check the alpha, but I consistently roll like over 400 with it. Yeah, the alpha is 450 on average with 65 mils a pen, and 563 is your max roll, which I've gotten max rolls with the HE before, and it is crazy. So if you're up against lightly armored vehicles, this thing is absolutely awesome. For my equipment loadout, I'm just gonna go through what I run. The most important thing is calibrated shells. I absolutely got handled in the tournament because I wasn't running calibrated shells, and I was face hugged by the enemy's E50. I could not pen a single shot on him because I couldn't pen his turret face, and when you're playing against players that are good enough to not be outmaneuvered, the only thing I could hit is his upper plate. So there was nothing I could do about him. And I learned real quick after that, run calibrated shells, and after I did that, now when I'm in a face hug, I can actually pen another E50M. So that's something that's super important for this vehicle. Plus you have heat, so it gives you an extra 40 millimeters of heat pen. I run enhanced gun laying drive and refined gun because the refined gun reduces your accuracy to .262, which is really damn good. And I want my on the move dispersion to be as good as possible. I also run improved modules because I want to do a lot of ramming in this vehicle. It's just super heavy. I know that the ammo rack durability is important. I haven't been ammo racked in this thing yet. It gets engine crit a lot, get lit on fire. I do get my ammo rack hit. I've been fortunate enough to not have it blow up yet, but the improved modules really good, especially when you're trying to get rams as much as possible. It reduces 40% of the damage you take, and when you weigh 50 tons and are going 60 kph, you do a lot of damage. I run enhanced armor because your turret armor is just on the cusp of being able to be penned by some standard rounds. So you want to be able to boost that up by that 3% so that you make them press 2 and load premium and reduce their DPM when fighting you. I run toolbox as well because the enhanced tracks is not that useful. I run improved optics for the extra view range because I'm always moving around in this vehicle and I'm always trying to be close in. So this isn't something where I want to be camouflaged and sneaky. I want to have my armor and my weight in the game, and I want to be running my DPM. I also run engine accelerator just for the same reason. I want to have that forward speed so I can get in. I can see an argument for running improved control, but I haven't needed that yet. And then high-end consumables because you have reactive armor and you want that to be running for as long as possible. And I do find that having that extra long time of adrenaline is really helpful because of the nature of this tank. You're in a brawl and you go in and you fight heavies, you fight mediums, you fight everybody. Sometimes this lasts for a long time and you want to be able to have adrenaline for as long as possible in those situations. What you end up with after this update with that equipment loadout is a very quick vehicle that when angled properly is super strong in the armor department. You got really good DPM that you can permatrack people with adrenaline running, and you're just a super aggressive strong tank. So we're going to take a look at some of my gameplay, and I'm going to break down the decision making in the next couple games that I show. I think I show 2 more after this. This is the clip of half of a game that I started in. This one's nothing crazy, but we have a WT up top here, and we want to just take shots into him as he crosses, force him down because everybody can shoot him, and then we're going to try to crossfire this 60 TP. The reason we're doing this is because he's going to overextend to try to kill this Yak Tiger. Unfortunately for him, he leaves him on 1 HP. We're going to punish him as much as possible for that poke because we don't want him doing something like that again. That's that side turret armor coming into play. Wasn't looking at him, so we penned it. And now we're going to try to break out of this crossfire that we put ourselves into. It wasn't too hard of one to escape, so I wasn't that worried about it. But we just need to kill this WZ. Once we kill this WZ, we can collapse in on their tanks from the side. That's where calibrated shells come in. When you're brawling against heavies and heavily armored tank destroyers, it's important to be able to do things like that without question. This game's pretty much over at this point, but you can see that when we come in from the side, now we're looking across all of them, and it forces them to run into other teammates on the team. So yeah, the calibrated shells, a lot of people would argue when you have a high DPM vehicle like this, you want to increase that DPM even more, but when you have something that has the role of this tank where you want to be in the middle of the fight and potentially fighting heavies and WZs that have a really good hull armor, you just don't want to be bouncing shots or trying to outmaneuver them because your acceleration isn't the best and you're a very large vehicle, so they can block you from getting around them. You just want to be able to have no questions asked pen shots. So that's just my reasoning for running calibrated shells. This is the next game we have here, Lagoon as well. I'm going to be spotting the heavy tank crossing initially. I'm still a medium, so I'm going to do the things I normally do in mediums or lights. I don't want to overcommit to the med side because they do have 3 heavies and 2 tank destroyers, and if they all go to heavy side, I want to be able to help that. So I see the chieftain. I wait for him to go behind the second bush so I don't get spotted when I fire. I know that he's one of the faster heavy tanks, so I'm going to stay here and wait for the slower ones to cross. I see the VK90, who is their slowest heavy tank. E4 might be a little bit slower, but chances are he's going up to the top bush. So I wait a second. I determined that the E4 would have arrived there already, just based on the VK90, and now I'm going to move over here. I am not playing this like a normal medium. A normal medium, I would probably flank that Ho-Ri and stop my team from getting flanked, but I have such good pushing potential with this vehicle that I just want to help my team deal with these 3 and then be done. The Ho-Ri is also not farming in the back, and I'm waiting to see if the E4 gets spotted, because unless the E4 is exceptionally good, he would get spotted after he shoots. That was a kind of a experimental peek to see if I would get hit by him. Now what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to figure out a way that I can get across to where the chieftain is, because if I can kill the chieftain and free up the Kronvon, we can have side shots on these guys and create a pretty nasty crossfire. So the VK fires. I was prepared to take the hit from the Type 71 right here, but he fires early and doesn't get the shot into me. Now I have this position, which forces the chieftain to run down into the Kronvon. I fail to pen the HE, which makes the Kronvon take an extra hit, which is my bad for the Kron, but I do end up finishing off that chieftain. And now we have forced down this Type 71 and the VK90, giving our team free shots into them. I'm going to shoot the low HP Type 71 because I want to kill the tanks that there are less guns looking back at me. He has a lot of places to look right now, so he isn't angling specifically to me. He's trying to back out, but he's just not going to be able to do that in time. My adrenaline is running, and my reload is very quick right now, 5.3 seconds for 340 alpha. Now this VK90 is forced to try to escape the crossfire by doing what I did, going around the outside and killing the outside tank first. Juke him out here. He kills our Kronvon, but even though he's broken out of the crossfire, he's not getting out of this. I pop my reactive armor just in case he pens that, because I know this is going to come down to a close game, and I don't want to be on close to a one-shot, and definitely not close to a one-clip for the TVP. Now I'm just going to focus on tracking out this E4, and I'm using the turret behind me to give me gun depression. I end up moving from this position because I'm afraid the E4 is going to look at me and I'm not going to be able to back up. So I poke up, and then I start to get less aggressive here. I'm going to wait for the E4 to fire before I get more aggressive again. And I think he shoots the IS-7 here in a second, but it's not really going to matter. He's on a one-shot. IS-7 kills him. And now it's a 2v2. We have a TVP, very dangerous clipper, and a tank that can pretty much two-shot me, the WZ-121. So we're going to take this middle position because we don't want them sneaking up on us from anywhere. There's a lot of bushes in here, and you can spot a lot of avenues from this area right here. So I'm going to spot the right side for a second, because if they're crossing in the back to go through their spawn, I'll see them. I don't see anything right there, so I'm going to move to the other side and see if they're crossing through our spawn. I drive up to the bush, and I actually proxy spot this WZ-121, and the IS-7 is already committed on him, which means that he has to back down into the depression by the cap circle. So if I look at him and he's not looking, I'm going in. Look at him, he's not looking at me, so I'm going in. First shot lands, he's now on a one-shot. I kill him right before he lands one into the IS-7. Unfortunately, the IS-7 gets killed by the TVP, but he does not last long after that. So that was our Lagoon game, 5.6k damage. Just shows how strong this tank is at pushing through heavy side. We absolutely demolished that heavy side so quickly. This thing is just such a good combination of armor, speed, and DPM. Now we have a game on Middleburg, and we're going to be going hill to the med side, because working in town with a medium, even one like this, is not something I'm super comfortable with. It certainly can be done, but I'd much rather have the option to go hold down in this vehicle. So we're going to be a little bit passive at the beginning, as always. We're going to see that there are heavy tanks in the town, and then we're not going to be passive anymore, because they have 2 heavies down, and there's 3 of us up here. That one heavy hasn't gotten here yet, and if there was only one medium here, we would kill it before anyone got to them. Turns out it's only an AFK E50M, and you can actually see the armor profile now, what I mean, that turret weak spot. It is very little, but you can hit it, especially if the person's not using their armor correctly. This guy comes back from being AFK and decides to shoot me, which is pretty awesome. I don't quite get the shot here, but I'm not interested in taking another hit. I noticed that I'm giving myself free shots on the leopard, so I backed down a little bit. Good thing the Yag wasn't looking at me. That was a pretty stupid poke on my part. But now I'm going to go to the mid because I want to affect the main brawl. This WZ and this VZ and the 183 apparently are all in the middle of the map, and if I start focusing them, they have to look at me and my team, and they're too far forward to be able to leave. If I start focusing that Yag, he can turn and just focus me, and my team can't do anything to help me. But if I turn these guys' heads, there's nothing they can do but look at me and try to avoid my team at the same time. So that's the reason that I go towards the middle here. And I'm showing the side scraping here too. Like, this tank has great side armor, and this Leopard 1 is going to try to pen me a couple times. It's not going to go down well for him. I'm switching targets to the Leopard 1 because he can leave, and I want to get the damage in on him as much as I can. Once he decides he wants to go, he can go, but while he's making the mistake, we want to punish him as much as we can. So, free shot into there, and I'm just going to keep taking this poke. If he's going to keep shooting my angled side like that, I'm just going to keep doing that. I mean, no reason not to. And I see that he's actually driving towards me. I'm going to take his track off there and spin him. That's exactly what happens in the E50M that I was talking about earlier. Things that you want to avoid. I pen an HE. Oh, that was not an HE, my bad. And he fires. He might land one shot on me. I'm not too concerned about it, though. And I kill him before he gets it off. Now, this mouse is super overextended. And even though he is the highest HP vehicle, I'm still going to go for him. It's super lucky that I get an engine fire here and do like over 1,000 because of it, but because he is so overextended, I can get shots into him for free, and I'm just going to take advantage of that. And here's the second engine fire that kills him. Yes, I'm hacking. So if I had gone for the main people, the mouse would have had crossfire on me, and he wouldn't have been punished for his mistake. And you always want to focus on punishing people for the mistakes that they make, because while they're making that mistake, they're free damage. That's the second time I've bounced the tracks of that VZ, so pretty retarded for me, but I side scrape again, and before he has a chance to reload, I get the kill. I have to be careful here because, you know, he can one-shot me, but I also have that reactive armor, and I'm kind of banking on the fact that if he does shoot me, the reactive armor will take care of it. Now, I miss and hit the building because, again, I don't know how to play the game, and he's backed himself into a corner here where I can track him without him being able to do anything to me. And with the adrenaline running, I can pretty much perma-track him. You see him repair a little bit earlier, but his other track's already off. So, yeah, that's game for him. 6.4k damage. Made a little bit of a mistake in mid when I peeked the 183 like that, and at the beginning when I popped over the top of the hill, but other than that, those are the crossfires and the reasons that I made them. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this E50M video. This was a very interesting tank to play. Definitely try it out. It's super strong right now. You just have to be aggressive when you can be. Don't be stupid and YOLOing in it, because I'll be disappointed in you, but this thing is really, really good. One of the strongest tanks in the meta. I'm going to be checking out the Foch next, so stay tuned for that. And you guys have a great day. Thanks for watching.